everyone, my name is Dana and thanks for joining me today for this chair yoga class. I love working with the chair. It has helped me so much deal with back pain, creating traction, finding alignment, and receiving really great, deep, healthy stretches. You'll see that I have an official yoga chair. It's a backless yoga chair, but you can follow along with this entire sequence with like a dining room, hard, high-backed chair. You want the chair seat to be somewhat firm, if not completely firm, and you want your feet to be able to touch the ground when you're sitting on the chair. I apologize in advance for my creaky chair. I'm going to cue you between 3 different foot positions today. Feet wide at a 45-degree angle turn. Feet hips width apart and parallel. And feet all the way together as well. And I'm going to be turning to the side and talking about those foot positions just so you are mentally prepared for that. I'm going to ask you to start with your feet spread wide. Learn right away here to press your knees wide from the strength of your hips. And learn what that feels like. So I feel my feet having to push. I feel tremendous work in my hips as my knees are going wide. And then when the feet are hips width apart, learn to feel your 2 feet firmly anchored into the ground. And feel the connection between your feet and your hips. Finally, feel your feet come all the way together. Your feet and your knees come together. And as you press your feet, feel your spine lift. Now, if one of these 3 foot positions feels incredibly natural to you, will you go to that foot position? I'm going to choose a feet hips width spread as we move into a beginning centering meditation. So notice how I place one hand to my abdomen and one hand to my heart. I invite you to do the same, unless it feels more helpful to keep your hands to your thighs. Sometimes, if we don't have a strong or open back, it can feel like we're collapsing. So I'd like you to feel a lift of your spine. That's most important. Then close your eyes. Close your eyes and feel your 2 feet into the earth. Open the soles of your feet and press. Press through the soles of your feet. Press the soles of your feet in a way that feels supportive. Feel the earth underneath you and supporting you. Feel the chair underneath your hips. Just like the earth is supporting your feet, let the chair support your hips. Open to that support. Then use the hand that's on your heart, if you've done that position, to assist a lift of the heart. But maintain the anchor of your feet and your hips. Stay connected to that sensation of grounding in your lower body. Stay connected to that sensation of lift in your spine and heart. as you once again place your hands onto your thighs. Open your eyes. Lengthen through your spine. As you ground down through your hands, lengthen your spine. Next, grip the chair underneath you. And as you gently pull the chair, roll your shoulders back. Roll your shoulders back and let your chest lift. Let your chest open. As you let your chest open, lift through the crown of your head, and with your mind's eye, visualize your spine. Visualize each bone of your spine lifting up and off of the last. Lift, lengthen, and traction each bone of your spine. Give yourself a tractioning, lengthening effect. Decompress your spine. Most of our daily activities are they have a compressing quality on the spine. So let your muscle strength and stretch serve to decompress the spine. Maintain that lift of your spine and length of your spine. As you release your hands and spread your feet, toes turned out at 45 degrees. Anchor your thighs down. Lift your spine up. I even pause and grip my chair wherever I can to lift. Now see how I start to go forward with my spine, but I'm not rounding my spine. The objective for me right now is decompressing my spine. But I start to feel some work here in my hips. Remember how we drove the knees wide? Continue to do that as you go forward. Perhaps resting your hands on your thighs as you go forward. A breath at a time. Lengthen through the crown of your head and go forward. And just as you keep your hips heavy and lengthen your spine, stay grounded in your body, stay grounded in your breath. If you feel your breath struggling in any place at any point, you could try touching your hand to that area and taking a deep breath into it. So I'm going to touch my abdomen. And when I breathe into my abdomen, I feel my hips soften. If I touch my heart and I breathe personally, I start to feel my upper and mid back soften. And as I lengthen my spine, these last couple of breaths, I continue to move my knees wide. Then I keep my spine long as I upright myself, and I bring my legs to the right. So I'll ask for you to do the same. See how I'm turning my whole body to the right? And my feet right now are hips width apart. Touch your hands onto your hips and feel your two hips right now. They are even to each other. They're level. Notice what happens to your hips when you twist your chest towards the back of the chair. See how I grip towards the side of the chair with my left hand and the right hand comes underneath. Maybe even look down quickly at your hips. You'll probably see that they went crooked a little bit. As you lift your head up and lengthen through your spine, traction your spine, can you move your right hip, glide it towards your right knee? And that's going to move you more into your middle and upper back. Then let your right hip gently relax. So I feel my hips turn a little bit. Then I glide my right hip towards my right knee. 2 more times. Let your right hip relax. Glide your right hip forward. And let your right hip relax. And glide your right hip forward. Take another deep breath. Lift and lengthen your spine. Release your hands and turn to the second side. So at any point that you need to, just pause and take a break, or look at me if something isn't clear, because I'm showing everything right here. The hips right now, touch them, look down at them, they're level relatively. They're level right now. When you lift your spine and turn towards the back of your chair, oftentimes the hips turn with you. The hips turn with you. And so we'll allow for that for the moment. Take a deep breath and keep your feet anchored as you glide your left hip towards your left knee and relax it. So this is a gentle pulsing on my hips and spine. I glide my left hip towards my knee and I gently relax it. Don't force the issue. As you glide your left hip towards the knee, this should not feel harsh. And relax. It feels a bit like a gentle massage on my hips and back. Move the hip away from or towards the knee, and then once more you might lift your spine upward. Deep breaths. And then gently relax it. Come back through center with your feet spread wide, toes turned out. Drive your knees out, press your feet firmly. Now take your hands in front of your heart. Use your thumbs to lift your chest. Don't round your back. Do push your heels. Keep your spine long as you stand up. Drive your knees out as you gently touch your hips onto the chair. And again, drive your knees out as you glide yourself up and 2 hips down. I'm driving my knees out, so I feel a lot of opening through my hips when I'm doing this. One more time. I let my hips glide up and I release my hips towards the chair. Hands to the thighs, second round. Turn your body. So be gentle with your hips and your spine with this work that you're doing in the hips of rotating. It should not feel harsh on your back, your sacrum, or your hips. Will you keep your feet hips width? Turn towards the back of the chair. Lift your spine up and away from the hips. Roll your shoulders back. Let your right hip gently glide backward. Then your right hip gently glide forward. So I'm gently gliding my right hip backward and right hip forward. So I'm very gentle with myself. I don't feel like I'm torquing on my spine or my hips. As I gently rotate my hips and my spine, this just feels kind of like a nice massage-y effect on my hips and spine. Deep breaths. Ending with the right hip gliding towards the knee as you breathe and hold that twist. Breathe and hold that twist. Breathe and hold that twist. Then inhale to come through center. Let your spine reacclimate to being centered before you move to the second side. I press my feet hips width, lift my spine, I traction my spine. Then I turn towards the back of the chair. I use my hands. I notice how my hips turn on me, and that's okay. I'm going to use my awareness in my hips to rock my left hip forward, and then let it slide back. So I'm rocking my hip forward and rocking it back. And breathe and rock. Deep breaths. And rock it to your hips. Be gentle with yourself as you work on your hips and your spine. It shouldn't feel like you're torquing on your spine or your hips. So then I square my hips and I turn one more time. I breathe deep, but it's much more about spine lifting, lengthening, than it is about, again, twisting. Use these poses to treat your back to some decompression and traction. So you're actually working to align the skeleton with this sequence. And when you come back through center, just let yourself reacclimate, then come through center with your feet spread wide, toes turned out. My hands are on my thighs. I decompress my spine and go forward. So we paused here with the first round, coming forward. So continue to drive your knees out. We're gonna move into a chair child's pose. I love doing child's pose this way. Not only am I lengthening my spine away from my hips and keeping my thighs grounded, but you'll notice how, just like we do in child's pose, I'm trying to touch my ribs towards my inner thighs. And this is where we stopped before. This might be where you like to end this end range. I'm gonna go into a deeper stretch portion now. So see how now I start to take my hands towards the ground. I'm continuing to move my chest forward, but I'm not keeping my spine completely flat. You'll see how when I extend my arms forward, you'll see how right now I'm starting to come into a forward bend. So I let my head release. I'm gently letting my head release below my heart. If this feels too much, but you still want to do it, to be here in this hold, you could always grab a second chair and prop yourself on that second chair. And I do it that way myself sometimes, but just for the sake of it being a video context, I'm just trying to make it easy and show with just the one prop. But take a couple more breaths. Know that you'll get another opportunity or a few in this child's pose. So deep breaths into your torso, your hips, your neck, your shoulders, your legs, and observe what's shaken. Observe where you're at with this, and just know that it will continue to get better and better. If you feel particularly tight, you're not the only one. Take another deep breath. Walk your hands in towards the chair. Now I'm tractioning my spine again. When I come into a deep stretch and that rounding flexion in my spine, before I come up, it's important to once again traction my spine and then lift up. 3 times, squatting, lifting up and lowering. So I press my palms, press my feet. I keep my spine lifted as I stand up. I drive my knees wide. Nice, deep, easy breaths. As you lower and lift, you can see this second round, I've already opened up quite a bit. So I'm just pausing, lightly tapping my hips to the chair, and then standing up. If that doesn't work for you, I understand. It will come with time and practice, I promise. So you sit back down onto the chair, place your hands onto your thighs, and turn towards the first side. So you can keep your feet hips width apart, or you can bring your toes together. If you feel you get really tight when you do that, please keep your feet spread. This is about, again, tractioning the back today. With my legs together, when I twist, it's going to give me an even better idea of what's happening in my hips and knees, because now they're touching, and now I can feel how much they twisted towards the chair. My goodness. I'm going to allow for that as I take my left hand and I try to cross it even more, and I try to take my right hand and I try to cross it even more on the chair. So now I'm working more into the shoulders, into the back. I'm more twisted in my spine, but I lift my spine. Breathe and gently slide the right hip away and towards, and away and towards, and away and towards, and 2 more times rock. And 1 more time, rock, hold the hips level and turn 3 and 2. When you come through center, place your hands onto your 2 thighs. Let your spine reacclimate. Then come back through center and to your second side. So these are all just options. My feet and knees are together now. I lift my spine, and I might try now taking my hands farther into the rotation. I notice how my knees and my feet are crooked, and I'm just going to be gentle and kind with myself as I might start to rock my hips, my spine, my head. Deep breaths as you rock. Be gentle with yourself. And you'll notice these different hand and hip positions, they just work into different spots. It's all good. I level my hips, I lift my spine and turn and breathe. Full deep breaths. And then bring it back through center. Let your spine reacclimate, then take your legs forward. So now see how my feet and my knees are hips width apart, and I'm going to try to stand up and down in the squat. If that doesn't work for you, spread your feet wide. See how I'm going to extend my spine, take my hands to my heart, and I stand up. And again, like I did with that previous squat, I take my hips just lightly to the chair, and a second time, and down, and I lightly touch down. Then I'm going to ask you to stand all the way up and stay up. Release your arms. Cool. So the next part, you're taking your chair against the wall if you have it handy, because it will stabilize it against a baseboard. And notice how the top of the chair is facing me. I'm coming back into a half standing forward bend, a half Ardha Uttanasana. So I take my feet hips width and I walk them back. And with my hands on the top of the chair, notice how my objective is to flatten my back. If your chair is a lot higher than mine, that's okay too. The objective here is to traction your back. So sometimes I'm on this top of the chair here, but it's great to be higher too. So it's not wrong, it's all good, it's just different. So I firm my knees and I push my thighs back and lengthen my spine. I take a few deep breaths and I just notice where I might feel tight. And I breathe into those areas. I'm going to ask you to keep your left hand on your chair. Place your right hand onto your thigh and press gently back. And then take your right hand onto the chair. Take your left hand onto your left thigh and press gently back. So I actually receive, and then left hand to the chair, I receive a feeling of length in my low back when I do this, when I take my right hand to the thigh and I push back, and see how I simultaneously pull my chest forward. Right hand to the chair, left hand to the thigh. See how I push my left thigh back and I extend my spine and chest forward? It allows my spine to be tractioned. And then left hand to the chair. Now from where both of your hands were pushing, push back there. And see how that just is a beautiful tractioning for my spine. You'll probably receive more stretch when you do that. It's all good. Take another deep breath. Now lift your chest and take your right foot all the way forward to your chair. So notice how I'm quite high with my chest, and that's fine. Both of my feet, they need to push down into the earth. And I lengthen my spine simultaneously. See how my shoulders are rolling back and my chest lifts up? This is called intense side stretch pose, or Parsvottanasana. I place my right hand on my thigh and I press my right thigh in order to glide my right hip away from my shoulder. Then my spine and chest once again move away from the hip. So I feel foot, calf stretch. You might be feeling hamstrings. More than anything, I'm so interested for you to work your torso and lengthen your spine. So even if you feel no stretch, just continue to treat your back to some traction. Now a variation on revolved triangle pose, Parvata-Trikonasana. Right hand goes into the center of the chest. Use the right hand to gently pull your chest towards the right and your right elbow back. Broaden your chest, broaden your back, and lengthen through the crown of your head. Keep pushing through your feet and breathe into the twist. When you come back through center with your right hand, lift your chest, step your right foot backward, move back from both of your thighs, flatten your back, take your left foot forward, push through both of your feet, lift your chest and lift your spine. So I mentioned how some of you might not be receiving stretch. Some of you might be getting a fair amount of stretch. And if that's you, and if it's a struggle to keep your back flat, remember, hands higher is better in that case. So I have my hands up on the chair here and I'm rolling my shoulders back. I push my feet and lift my spine. And just know that as we move forward with this sequence, you can always be higher with your hands like this. Now I keep pushing through my feet, straightening my legs, as I place left hand to the thigh and I press back. So when I press my left thigh back, it lengthens my low back. It creates traction for my low back. I glide my left hip away from me. I tend to be quite tight, and a lot of us do, tend to be quite tight in our hip flexors and our thighs. So I even use my hand to try to soften through my tight hip flexors. I push my feet down, lengthen my spine, now touch my hand to my heart for revolved triangle pose. See how I use my hand to help my chest turn? And we're going to use this technique again. So hand to the chest and let the hand help your chest turn. Roll your shoulders back, lengthen your spine, and turn. Next deep breath. From there, you can place your left hand to the top of the chair. Step that left foot back, push both of your thighs back, extend your spine. Check in with your body. Maybe things have opened up dramatically, maybe not. Do make sure your spine can lengthen. Do make sure both of your hips are evenly pressing. From here, will you look forward, walk in towards your chair, press down through your feet and stand up, mountain pose, rolling your shoulders back. So now I'm flipping my chair so that the seat of the chair is facing me. I'm going to take downward dog on the chair. So see how my hands press and they're turned out. I keep my arms straight and I press my thighs, the tops of my thighs, back. You can also see how my sits bones and my tailbone, right back here, are actually rolling up. And that, as you can see, has a great tractioning effect on my spine. Be with your breath. Notice this shape. At any point, you can come higher with the hands if you're not able to get the back tractioning advantage to the chair work. So for me, chair work is about making space. It's about, again, traction. It's about finding really good alignment. It's not necessarily like cranking the deepest pose as far as feeling like strain and stretch. We honestly shouldn't be feeling that anyway in our yoga practice. We should be feeling open and free. And I feel like the chair is such a great teacher to teach us what it is exactly we're supposed to be feeling and doing in our yoga practice. As you look forward and take your right foot forward, push your legs straight and roll your shoulders back. So notice how as I push my feet and my legs straight in, I'm extending my spine forward and flattening my back. So yes, to be clear, I feel stretch when I'm doing this, but it's more about feeling open and free and building a sustainable amount of mobility. And I'm using my torso to extend my spine long and traction my back. I tell you this sometimes, but through yoga, I used to measure at 5'7" and a half, and I measure at 5'9" now, which is absurd. It tells you how poor my posture was, because it's not like I grew in my 20s and 30s. I grew, but it's because I learned how to hold myself differently. And it's this kind of work that has helped me find that space and traction. It's helped me find my natural healthy alignment in my body. Second time, right hand to chest with revolved triangle pose. So when I roll my shoulders back and turn towards the right, I glide my right shoulder away from, or my right hip, away from my right shoulder. Use your hand to help your chest turn. Can you then slide your right hand gently behind your back and reach your hand towards your left hip? Use your right hand towards your left hip to lift your left hip slightly. And I actually push my hand into my hip as I lengthen my spine, decompress my spine, and turn a little bit more. You could always keep the hand on the hip, right hip or the chest if that feels better. Breathe deep, full and complete. As you finish revolved triangle pose, by extending your arms straight up towards the ceiling, pull your arms wide apart. Stretch your arms wide apart. Breathe and open your whole body. Then place your right hand down onto the chair seat. Keep your spine long and reach your right foot back. Hips back, thighs back. Downward dog on the chair. One more side with all those arm variations. Left foot forward, traction your spine. We're preparing the shoulders for a nice, gentle back bend on the chair. So keep your feet firm and pressed. Lengthen your spine and chest forward. Breathe into your body. Traction your own spine. Breathe deeply, fully and completely. And I know we are doing longer holds in these poses. Use the time to find your alignment, to find where you might need a little extra TLC. Find the spots in your hips, back, shoulders that are your sticky points and work with them with your breath. Get to know yourself. Breathe deeply into yourself. And I take my left hand onto my chest. As I take the hand to my chest, I let the hand help my chest turn while I lengthen my spine. I have to roll my right shoulder back, roll my left shoulder back as I turn. So I'm going to keep that turn of my chest. At any point, you can stay here. This for me is really helpful. I mean, they're all really helpful. This is really helpful. I'm going to take my hand, like I did on the first side, if possible, behind the back, and I try to hook my fingers onto my hip. And then as I hook my fingers onto my hip, I lift my hip a little bit and turn. And this, be mindful that it feels healthy on your shoulders as well as your spine. For some bodies, the arm does not like to come behind the back, and it's a work in progress. So just be mindful. Be mindful as you breathe and open your body. Breathe into that revolved triangle pose. Stay with it. As you now extend the arm towards the ceiling, spread your chest. Spread the center of your chest into your fingers, into your palms. Find space. This pose, when done on the floor, it can feel like a struggle, and the struggle is real. So use the chair here to open into the experience. Wide open posture. And then place your hand towards the seat of the chair. Step back and evenly press both of your thighs back in that downward dog. Walk in towards the chair. Stand up and sit on the chair for Purvottanasana. We're going to work a back bend. So the shoulders have been in flexion, and now we're going to take the shoulders into extension. First, will you use the chair to help you roll your shoulders back and actually pull on the bottom of the chair? You're going to feel a slight strengthening of your shoulders. Notice how I'm not forcing my elbows to be straight. I am asking my spine to lift. If you have issues weight bearing on your wrists, if you experience elbow pain or shoulder pain, neck pain in what I'm about to show, please just stay here with the hands gripping up, rolling the shoulders back. It's a great way to prepare your shoulders in a strengthening and stretching to be able to get to what I'm showing, which is Purvottanasana, intense stretch of the east. When you do this, keep your eyes forward, do not turn your head. Do press your palms flat into the chair and take your feet a foot's length forward. Firm your waist, start to roll your shoulders back. And now as you look forward, can you pick your hips up and scoop them forward slightly, and then take your two hips down to the chair. So listen, if this at any point hurts your joints, or if it feels tricky on your back or neck, don't do it, it's not worth it. Stay here. Second time, press your hands, eyes forward, scoop your hips underneath you, lift your hips up and roll your shoulders back. Lift your hips, lift your chest. Deep breaths, 3. Roll your shoulders back. Full deep breath, 2. And full deep breath, 1. Then take your two hips back down onto the chair and take a full deep breath in and out. Second time of 3. Press your hands into the chair. Roll your shoulders back. So you have to drive from the strength of your glutes. You do have to roll your shoulders back and open your chest. Open your chest, lift your hips, lengthen through your spine, and breathe. Take another deep breath in and out, and then gently take your two hips down. If it's just a strength issue, it's not painful, maybe you could try keeping your hands on the chair and just learning to slightly take your hips forward and back. One more time. Look forward. Roll your shoulders back. Scoop your hips up. Drive your hips up. Roll your shoulders back and breathe as you open your chest. Lengthen through the crown of your head and decompress your spine in this back bend. Take another deep breath in and out, and gently release. Bring your feet in. You're standing up out of the chair. Have your feet in a position that works for you to keep your spine lifted, your chest open, and you can stand up out of the chair. Release your arms, and now will you turn your chair One more time, you're facing me. And we're gonna move through a final hip opening series. So we're getting all sorts of good stuff done on the chair. I love you, chair. So my feet are hips width apart. I'm coming into a figure 4 shape. Notice how my right ankle comes onto my left thigh. My right hip externally rotates and my right knee releases towards the ground. I'm showing from the side. The knee for a lot of people starts quite high and the spine might round back. Can you, if that's happening, can you take your hands to the seat and lift your chest? And as you lift your chest, can you start to release your right hip down? And then see, are you able to move your spine forward? You might not be able to. And listen, if that's you, can you just stay here and work this way as I guide us through the rest? Take a break if you need it. You should not feel your knee paining you. This is to treat the hip and the back. So you'll notice how my spine is lifted and flat. And I'm going to keep my spine lifted and flat as I come forward. So I'm not rounding. I'm not rounding right now. I'm keeping my spine lifted and flat. And I roll my shoulders back. I actually am gripping the chair seat underneath me and letting that help me. It might be helpful to push your hands on your thighs or use your hands on your foot and your knee. Listen to your body. Now we're going to stretch the hip a bit more deeply. Stay long through the spine, but start to go forward. So see how now I'm going to let my chest and my head dive forward and down. Take a couple deep breaths. This should just feel like it's stretching your hip more. It might be stretching your hip a lot, and that's normal. So breathe into the hip. If the knee pains you and you still want to stretch, I understand. Could you maybe try supporting your knee with your hand? And that might be just enough to take any knee pain away. It should be all hip. Now notice how I lengthen my spine and I roll my shoulders back. I keep my spine lengthened and tractioned as the right hand comes to the sole of the foot. I push the sole of the foot and the hand into each other, and then I start to gently twist away from the knee. So this is going to move me into my hip differently. It's going to move me into, personally, it moves me into my shoulder blades, my middle back, my chest. See how I take my hand onto my chest like I did before in revolved triangle pose? And I'm actually going to use my hand to help me to turn. So we're going to use all the same arm positions that we did in revolved triangle pose. They're all so different and so good in their own ways. I'm using my hand to help me turn my chest, and that helps me work into my torso, my hip, and my back. Left hand can come behind you, can slide behind you and towards the hip, towards your figure 4 hip. And I'll show that from the side. Stay with your breath. See how I'm trying to grip my hip and twist, and this is more intense on the shoulder. Just be with yourself. Treat yourself wisely. And then finally, I take that arm into revolved triangle pose arm like we did before, and I stretch both of my arms wide. I'm pulling my arms away from each other and I turn my chest. 3. Roll the shoulders back. 2. Deep breath. 1. Bring it all back through center. Stabilize your spine. And one more side. So again, it's like this chair work too. It's like, okay, this is not, it's not easy. Even though we're sitting in a chair, it's a lot of work to work on these alignment points, to access these areas in our body. I'm breathing into my hip. I feel the earth underneath the right foot. Absolutely feel free to stay back and stretch this way. You don't need to do any of the rest. It's really worth your time. If you're tight in your hip, it's worth your time to stay in a stretch and hold that stretch for some time. If you're quite tight and all you can manage is just leaning back into your dining room chair, I totally understand, and you can just do that. You could do that. Actually, a nice one with your back on the chair is even taking your hands behind you. If this is feeling too much to begin coming forward, it's not a race. It is not a race to the end. It is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey that asks you to honor your body, your experience. Just because my visual is looking like this, where I can start to come forward with a flat back, doesn't mean you need to strain to get to where I'm at. Meet yourself where you are, especially since I don't get to actually see you and correct you like I would in a class. Just observe your own self and work with yourself. But use what I'm telling you to be a guide, which would be, oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be tractioning my spine. Yes, I feel stretch in my hip. Oh my goodness, I feel my knee. What did Dana say? That's right. Lift the knee up. Maybe don't come as far forward. If everything's going well and you're feeling like you can go forward a bit more, you could start to release your chest and your head and stretch into the hip. Deep breaths as you soften into the stretch. So in other words, if you feel like, when you start to stretch, if you feel like, oh, I have to just tighten my jaw and, you know, what, can I bear down on something? That's like not the point. That should be something that we can have an experience of relaxing into it. Again, to be clear, not that this is exactly, it's not a relaxing experience in itself. This is a tremendous stretch. It's learning to soften even in the midst of feeling something intense. Can you soften to the experience of an intense stretch? As you flatten your back, and we're now going to begin that twisting journey, which is back of the hand to the foot. So I feel quite a bit of work in my shoulders. I lengthen my spine and turn. Soften the hip, lengthen the spine and turn. You can use both of the hands wherever it is you need to. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, lengthen your spine, and turn. I stay with my body. I continue to spread my chest open, and I take my back hand to my heart like I did in revolved triangle. And I start to pull. I'm using my hand to pull my chest. I'm using my hand to pull my own chest. Then I have to notice, did my left shoulder creep up? Oh my goodness, roll that back and I breathe. And again, I'm firm through my foot, I'm working. This is a tremendous amount of work to keep my spine tractioned. But can you soften to the experience of the work? The alignment, stretch, and strength? Right hand can come behind you and reach towards the hip. It would look like this if it's coming. It would be hands sliding along the back, going towards that hip, and then you could turn. So this does, in addition to just being an amazing opening for the body in a lot of ways, which I'm sure you can feel, this kind of work I'm guiding you through prepares the body for some of the deeper hip and twist postures. And then it would be the revolved triangle pose arm, and I spread my arms in opposite directions and open my chest. And then finally, I would come back through center. Foot to the ground, feet spread. Child's pose stance. Drive your knees out, lengthen your spine. 3 times we'll come up and down out of the squat, but first press both of your thighs, lift your spine. Take your hands to your heart and lift and down. 2, lift and down. And 1, lift and down. And I go forward, drive my knees. Final child's pose off of the chair. Final child's pose off of the chair. Full deep breaths, soften into it. Deep breaths and soften into it. Knees wide. Breathe into your hips and lengthen. Lengthen your spine. Deepen your breath, soften your hips. Last couple full deep breaths. Soften your neck, soften your shoulders as you go forward. Walk your hands back in, place your hands towards your thighs, bring your hands to your chest and stand on up. Legs can come towards each other. And for our final relaxation, our Shavasana, I would love for you to experience a lift under your shins. So if you're using a yoga chair, you can place your calves onto the chair because the feet can come through. If you don't have that available, will you just put some sort of lift, even like a couch pillow? And a sizable couch pillow would be amazing to get the shins high, because if the shins can be high, the hips and the abdomen, they can relax. And this is a great position to know about, especially if you're someone who tends towards back tension or discomfort, this can be a great way to take a 5-minute relaxation and meditation. Make any last adjustments that you need to in your body to be comfortable, and as you take those last adjustments, drop into your body. Drop into your body. And deepen your breath in your body. Breathe down into your body. Breathe into your hips. Breathe into your thighs. Breathe into your abdomen. Relax your abdomen. Invite your breath to move more fully through your pelvis, your hips, and your abdomen. Then feel your spine. Visualize every single bone of your spine. Long, spaced out, tractioned. Let your breath gently massage your spine. Let your breath create space. Let your breath create space and spread the muscles of your back. Soften your back. Let your back relax into the earth underneath you. Feel the earth hold you, support you. Open yourself to that experience of the earth holding you, supporting you. Let your entire back relax into the earth. Especially with the legs elevated, we can allow the back to soften. Allow any tension in your body, in your back body, to melt backward and down into the earth. Feel the earth take it. Thank the earth for the support provided. Allow any tension to melt away. let your exhalation melt away any last tension. Stay relaxed. Stay relaxed as you open yourself to the experience of your breath. Feel relaxed, open, and free as you breathe into your heart. Breathe into your heart and open your heart. And then gently bow or bring the knees in towards your chest as you bow your head gently towards your heart. Just feeling your entire back body relax into the ground once more. Relax your knees and roll towards your side and lift up to a seat that you can be comfortable in, and place your hands in front of your heart. Once more, bow your chin towards your chest. Namaste. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this class. Stay open,